Hi, my name is Smale. Today we're going to be talking about ground ladders and how to properly throw a ladder. Ladders are most primarily used during fireground operations to make access to roofs for ventilation, as well as to get to second and third story windows for victim removal and VES operations. Ladders also have other uses, such as in dive calls. If we need to make access to a patient in a canal, we can use the ladder to get down an embankment safely, as well as pull the victim up using a Stokes basket. Also, we can use a ladder during extrication if we need to lift the car up to free the victim underneath. It's always important to follow the manufacturer's recommendations, but it's always worth the risk. First thing to remember when using a ground ladder, using anything on a fire ground, is to be in protective equipment. For ladders, we're gonna always have our helmet on, some sort of safety glasses, and a bunker coat, as well as some sort of work gloves to keep our hands safe. It's also important to remember your limitations as a firefighter. In more rural settings, you might find it that one firefighter has to work by themselves to get the task accomplished. In other areas, you might have the luxury of 2 or 3 people to help you. It's always just important to remember your limitations so you don't get hurt, so you can be there to help the victim. So we have 2 types of ladders. We have our one section roof ladder, which they have roof hooks at the top and are primarily 12, 14, and 16 foot. Our extension ladders are 2 or 3 fly section, which is our 24-foot extension ladder and 35-foot extension ladder. The 16-foot and 35s are found on all of our aerial trucks in my department, and the 14s and 24s are found on all the engines. Ladder trucks carry an assortment more. We have a little giant, which can be an A-frame or extension, as well as a 16, 24, and 35, as well as a 10-foot attic ladder. Today we're going to be using a 14-foot roof ladder to show you how to properly throw it. Next, I want to talk about the anatomy of the ladder so we all know what we're working with here. The bottom of the ladders, the feet or the butts, they're kind of shaped in a V shape so it can dig into the grass, as well as if you find a crack in the concrete, you can properly set it there and have the ladder not fall out on you. The sides of the ladder are called the beams. This is the most structurally sound. The middle is the rungs, which is what we'll be climbing on. And for our single section or roof ladders, they have hooks at the top, and those will hook around the peak of the roof so we can properly stabilize it on a roof so we can make ventilation. Next, it's important to remember, like I said earlier, with our 1 and 2 man operations, what's the most easiest and convenient way to carry the ladder. If we have to carry other tools, we of course want to be as safe as possible, have the most visibility and maneuverability around the fire ground. So there's a couple different options. Our first is a briefcase carry. This is when you're going to hold the ladder down by your side around your waist and just hook your hand around the beam of the ladder. This is more typical in a 2-person carry, but a single firefighter can accomplish this task by finding the balance point or the center of the ladder. Our next is a low shoulder carry. This is when we'll actually put our hand through the rungs and wrap around the beam, and the weight is going to be lower to our center mass. This increases most visibility because we can look over top of the ladder and see what's around, as well as keeping it close to your body so it's very secure. Another way you can do this is to hold tools as well. If we're going in a single person VES, you can carry hand tools in your hand as well as placing your hand through the ladder to carry it. My personal preference is the high shoulder carry. This is when the beam rests on top of your shoulder and the ladder is actually above. This makes it easiest for spiking, using the height advantage to get the best fulcrum point, but it does kind of lessen your visibility around the fire ground with the ladder right there in your face, as well as it is a little tougher to hold hand tools as well. The most important thing is to practice and find what works best for you, as well as to be able to adapt to the situation. There's always going to be different types of layouts in fires, where the house is at, if there's any cars in the way or bushes that we have to go around, as well as how many firefighters are actually working on the task to throw the ladder. So what I'm going to do now is explain and demonstrate those 3 carries, starting with the briefcase, then low shoulder, then high shoulder carry. Next, I want to talk about our actual approach to the building and when we are going to throw the ladder. So the first thing is we want to walk with the butts forward. This is the easiest way to set the ladder into the ground and be able to raise it with the head of the ladder going up to where we need to be at the window or the roof. So for my preferred method, I'm going to use the high shoulder carry. We of course want to be aware of any above ground and lower ground obstructions, any wires, any trees, low hanging shingles or anything like that, as well as any tripping hazards, any chairs, children's toys in the driveway, any other bushes or roots walking through the grass. It's good to be aware of that. So when we approach the building, we're going to be doing a little size up of the building. We're looking for a window and our target essentially of where we want to throw the ladder. For this method, we're just going to say here's a second story window we need to go in for VES. So as I'm walking up, I'm looking, sizing up my building at my window, see if I have a plate glass or hurricane window. We always want to make sure that the tips of the ladder are at the bottom windowsill when we go up to it. So as I approach, I want to throw my ladder about 5 or 6 feet away from the building itself, driving the one end into the ground, and then continuing my momentum and pushing the top of the ladder into the building and securing it with my arms. I'll demonstrate that now. Once the ladder makes contact with the building, from there I want to slide the bottom end out to my proper climbing angle. We want to add a lower angle if we're taking victims out, as it's easier to get up there, but a steeper angle if we're just going to be climbing up and down hauling tools, as it's easier to climb with a load in your hands. Next, we want to talk about how to properly take the ladder down afterwards. Of course, like I said, this depends on how many people you have to help you out. If we're just going to do a single man here, we're going to talk about the safest way to do that, in my opinion. So first, we want to grab our rungs on the 2 and the 5 rung and push it completely up against the building. From here, we're going to just walk, either using the beams down or rung over rung until the ladder is safely on the ground. It's very important to remember when you do lower the ladder that you always want the butts up against something so it doesn't slide out and slip down on you. I'll demonstrate that now. Now that the ladder's down, we're ready to go to our next point of entry, which would be our next window. Another way to raise the ladder is exactly the opposite of what we just did. We place the ladder on the ground with the butts into the corner of the building, and now just raise it up rung over rung. I'll demonstrate that. It's important to remember to always be looking up at the tips. The ground, you know where it's going to be at, it's under your feet. So we want to be looking up so we know right where we're at with the window, making sure it's accurate to help our victims get out, as well as our firefighters. Also, it's important to remember to practice, practice, practice. We're at the station for 24 hours, we have the ladders at our disposal. When seconds count, you can count on us that we've put in the work, we've come out here, we've trained every day, been diligent, because it could be one of our own that we're saving. We need to be there for them. Seconds do count on the fire ground, and it is our emergency. We want to be there for our brothers and sisters as well as for the citizens. So the more often you practice, the more efficient you become, learning other techniques, taking classes, learning from the older guys that have done this for years and years is very important, as we can get better at throwing ladders, become more efficient. We can now start carrying tools and do a faster VES, potentially getting the whole house done in just a couple minutes. And this is valuable for saving life and protecting property. I want to thank you for watching my video and I hope you learned something.